Yeah.
What parts of ourselves are waiting to be rekindled, waiting for that transformation?
That's such a great question. And I think his poetry gives us this framework for exploring those parts of ourselves, for finding the courage to face our
For
fears.
sure. It's about embracing our imperfections,
Yeah.
all the messy bits.
And realizing that those messy bits, those are what make us unique. They're what make our stories worth telling.
Absolutely. And they might just be the key to unlocking those hidden embers of hope, the ones that are waiting to be fanned into flames.
I love that image. It's about recognizing that even when things are tough, even when the world feels dark, there's always that potential for light, for hope.
Exactly. It might be hidden, but it's there.
So as we're talking about those hidden embers, I keep thinking back to that contrast in Van Rooyen's life, growing up in that quiet, rural northern Cape and then moving to the bustling city of Johannesburg.
It's a stark contrast, for sure. I wonder if those opposing forces, the quiet and the chaotic, the rural and the urban, actually fuel his creativity.
Right, because he seems to find beauty in both. Like he's
Yeah.
embracing those contradictions, and maybe that's what allows him to see those embers of hope even in the darkest places.
That's a great point. It's like he's showing us that hope doesn't always reside in the obvious places. Sometimes it's found in the cracks, in the unexpected moments of grace.
It reminds me of those quiet moments in his poetry, those pauses between the lines, where there's this sense of something profound, something unspoken.
It's true. He doesn't spell everything out for the reader. He trusts us to lean in, to listen,
hmm
to find the meaning hidden in those spaces.
It's like he's creating a conversation, inviting us to participate in the story. And in that exchange, in that shared space, we find those embers, those connections that remind us we're not alone.
It's about recognizing that shared humanity and realizing that those connections are what give us the strength to keep going, to keep searching.
To keep fanning those flames.
Exactly. So if Van Rooyen's poetry is this testament to the human spirit, what can we learn from it? How can we take those lessons of hope and apply them to our own lives?
That's the question, isn't it? And I think one of the biggest takeaways is the importance of vulnerability, of being honest with ourselves and with each other about the struggles, the
Right,
fears.
because it's in those moments when we let ourselves be seen that we find true connection, true understanding.
And when we feel connected, when we feel supported, we're so much stronger, more resilient.
It's true. We can face anything when we know we're not alone.
And it's love in all its forms that allows us to build those connections. Romantic love, familial love, the love between friends.
Love is a powerful force. It can heal us. It can help us see those embers of hope, even when they feel buried deep inside.
It can help us become the arsonists of our own lives, in a way. To burn away the old and make space for something new, something extraordinary.
That's a powerful image, and a perfect way to sum up the transformative power of Van Rooyen's poetry.
So I think we need to encourage our listeners to experience Embers of Dawn for themselves, to really dive into his work and see what resonates with them.
Definitely. It's a journey worth taking.
But before we wrap up, I'm curious, what's one thing you hope stays with our listeners? What's that one burning question?
Well, I think the question I'd pose to our listeners is this. What are your embers of dawn? What are those sparks of hope that you can hold on to when life gets tough?
What a great question. It's something we can all reflect on.
And maybe by sharing those embers with each other, by supporting one another, we can help make the world a little brighter.
I couldn't agree more. Well, here we are, the final stretch of our deep dive into Embers of Dawn. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Exploring the world of Alfonzo Van Rooyen, his words, his experiences.
It has. His poetry stays with you. It makes you think and feel.
It really does. We've talked about love, loss, the courage to speak up, to be vulnerable, and of course that persistent ember of hope.
That's the thing about Van Rooyen's work. It doesn't shy away from the hard stuff. He faces those raw, human emotions head on, but there's also a tenderness there, a vulnerability that draws you in.
I agree. It makes his work so relatable. He's not afraid to admit he's messy, that he's still figuring things out.
Exactly. And in a world that often tells us to hide our flaws, to strive for this impossible perfection, it's refreshing, isn't it?
It is. It's like he's giving us permission to be ourselves, imperfect and all.
And it reminds me of that Japanese art we talked about, kintsugi, taking something broken and making it even more beautiful.
Yes. By highlighting the imperfections. It's like what Van Rooyen does with language. He takes these difficult experiences, painful even, and transforms them into something poetic, something meaningful.
He doesn't just tell us a story. He invites us to feel those emotions with him, to find the beauty in those unexpected places.
And maybe that's the ultimate message of hope that we can take away from all of this.
What do you mean?
That even in the darkest times, amidst the heartbreak and the struggle, there's always that possibility of beauty, of meaning, of joy even.
That's beautifully put. Van Rooyen's poetry reminds us that we're all works in progress, always changing, always evolving.
Right. It's a process. And it's in that process, in embracing all of who we are, that we truly discover ourselves.
I like that. Embracing the light and the shadows. It's all part of the journey.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Embers of Dawn, I want to ask you, what's the one thing you hope our listeners take away from all of this?
That's a good question. I think if I had to distill it down, it would be this. Embrace the fullness of who you are. Don't be afraid of those messy parts, the broken pieces.
Those are the things that make you, you.
Exactly. They make your story worth telling.
Absolutely. And on that note, we encourage everyone listening to check out Embers of Dawn, experience the power of his words,